Hello and welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton, and welcome back to the Toffee Blues podcast. Last week, I was joined by Paul McAllister, and yeah, if you haven't seen that one, go and check it out. We had a good big chat about all things going on at the club at the moment, mostly negative, but yeah, I'm sure we'll delve a lot more into those topics in this podcast as well. I am joined again by regular co-host Max Cruz. How are you doing, Max?
Yeah, not too bad. I mean, I can't say this podcast is going to be a bit more positive with everything going on, but we'll do our best, won't we? So we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll try and see whatever positives there may be in the situation at the moment. Yeah, it's fair to say that yeah, I don't think Saturday's match went anywhere near as swimmingly as many of us would have hoped. And I think if we'd been told before the game that we would have been playing against like 10 men for more than half the match, um, I mean, I want to say people would have thought, well, there you go, we'll get the win then. But that said, I think there were a lot of people that once the red card was confirmed, actually started to think, oh, because they're going to sit off us a lot more than it always seems to be. That the more we have of the ball, the worse we are under Dyche. Yeah, I guess yeah. Jumping in then, what was your reaction when the red card was given in the stadium?
Well, to be honest, I did not celebrate the red card in the slightest because I instantly thought the game was going quite well for us. We were getting chances in that first half. And then as soon as that red card happened, which I thought at the time was a bit harsh, and I was thinking, I'd rather him stay on the pitch. I mean, we've got more of a chance of beating them because our style of play doesn't suit having the ball. It does not suit having the ball, and Dyche doesn't have a plan B. So we have no way of playing in that way. So, you know, how can we expect to break down a team when we're not coached that way? And we don't have a way of playing as it is when we're up against it, when the other team got the ball all the time. So it's just a case of they just had no idea how to break down a team whatsoever. And as soon as that red card happened, I thought we're going to struggle even more to get the win here because exactly those reasons. And it turned out to be the case because there was no adaptation in the whole game, sideways, backwards, like for like, every substitution, just mediocre, rubbish football, boring the Goodison crowd to death. To be honest.
Yeah, and as you say, like I said, the issue was that yeah, we probably did play better in that first half, didn't we? And I think we kind of lost that impetus really in the second, as you say, as we tried to find a way through them, and it's just not our game at all, is it? We're a lot better, kind of reactive, hitting teams on the break really, and obviously a lot of our goals come through set pieces as well, which yeah, and our crossing just wasn't on point on Saturday at all. They were dealing with everything that we put into the box, and obviously even once Beto came on and we had the two up front, it just weren't able to get the balls into them at all. They defended very well, to be fair to them, but we obviously should have had time to break them down really. But as you say, it just wasn't our game. And of course, with it being 10 men, it places even more like fault on Dyche and on the players because at home at Goodison, the Brentford are a team we probably should be beating anyway, even though they've had a pretty good season. But they're a team we finished above last season, even with 8 points taken off us. With all that in mind, it was always going to be you know, like anything other than a win wasn't going to be acceptable, but particularly with the running that we're going to have in December. That was one of our last winnable games before New Year, really. And we're with the form we're in at the moment going into this run of fixtures, people are quite rightfully starting to worry quite a bit, and it really has. The last few games in particular, we really seem to have lost our way. I think back to Ipswich, and I think that was probably the last game at all where we just seemed to have any sort of confidence in front of goal, really, and any idea of how to actually beat a team. We haven't scored in the last three matches now. The last goal we scored was against Fulham, which again was at the end of a game where we'd been dreadful for pretty much all of it and hadn't looked like scoring at all. Didn't even look like scoring when we did. We just managed to overload the box and just catch them out with one ball. But yeah, the last few games we really do seem to have lost our way, don't we? And I say it's quite hard to put your finger on, I think, what exactly is going wrong. And like I say, all our numbers compared to last season are just so much lower in play, especially in what we're creating. And the defense seems to have sorted itself out a little bit, but yeah, I don't know. Like, what would you say is like the main thing going wrong for us, attack wise?
Well, the thing that's going wrong for us is that the quality of chances that we create are never good anyway. And the type of goals that we were scoring last season from set pieces and winning the ball high up the pitch, high pressure, you know, we're just not scoring those goals anymore. So we're never going to score goals, pretty good looking goals that you think, oh wow, that was brilliant. It's always a knockdown, a mistake from the defence, and that's not happening for us at the moment. And Dyche isn't adapting to that because he has one way of playing. And when you have Calvert-Lewin, who, it's just, he's not like a Chris Wood sort of player, is he? Where he is a proper target man. I mean, Calvert-Lewin's good as anyone in the air. But the amount of times you think, just make your own look. Make your own look. He doesn't get across the front post quick enough. He's sort of ambling around a lot. I know he probably is trying to conserve his energy because when he's on the ball, he can do positive things, but it's just, and then nothing ever changes with Dyche because he comes on, brings better on. And it's like for like, but nothing's going to change because we're still playing the same way. Nothing's changing. Nothing's changing in midfield. So that's the problem. I saw a stat about saying that our positive like sort of runs came from when we were winning those balls up high of the pitch and knockdowns and stuff, and it's just not happening at the moment. And we're just not. We're getting fouled out quite easily. To be honest, we seem like really easily to play against because it's quite predictable what we're going to do, isn't it?
Hmm.
I mean, I think that's where we're going wrong. To be honest, it's far too predictable as a team.
Yeah, and like I say, there's been a lot of calls in the last few weeks to put in Dye in the middle, and obviously that did happen in the second half against Brentford, and McNeil got put onto the left, and yet it still just wasn't happening because there's just not enough movement, is there? As you say, the players are so set in their positions. There's no fluidity. There's no like breaking the channels or making runs in behind or anything. Like I just say, Calvert-Lewin's kind of almost always playing as that target man, but he's never making the runs in behind anymore. And with Brentford playing so deep, there was just no way through them. Like, and as you say, we were trying to. It seemed like we were trying to get the balls into the wide areas, but it was shutting down the crosses. And even if we did manage to get the crossing, as we say, they were just able to deal with them all. So, as you said, there was just no real. It was clear we just had no idea how to find our way through. And as the second half progressed, you could tell Goodison was getting more and more like on the players' backs. And go on.
Yeah, there's no seems to be any like expression within our players other than from and die. But then he doesn't get the help he needs because his probably contributions and overall performances have probably been a bit off lately because he doesn't get the help. Doesn't get the help from Mikalenko. When he takes on 3-4 men and then he's driving into about 3-4 men who are now marking him. Right, he can't lay it off to Mikalenko in space because he's in our own half. So it can only go from so far before Ndai gives away the ball because there's no options at all. There's no expression from our players, to want to, attack, get bodies forward. It's just slow, pedestrian, predictable. It's just rubbish.
Hmm. And like I say, I mean, the thing is, like I said, I've always said that Dyche has always kind of had like one hand tied behind his back because of the situation we're in. The players, the quality of players we have probably is about representative of where we are in the table. But the thing is, you can't be blaming the players for not making these movements or runs and stuff because it'll be exactly what they're being told to do. We clearly go in with a discipline first. Don't take any too high risks. Even with 10 men, we knew Brentford were a threat on the break, and there was a few times in the second half where you could almost feel like, as they were coming towards the park, and everyone was just like, oh my God, here we go. They're actually going to beat us. Never mind, we're not going to find a way through. And the fact that every tiny little attack Brentford had in the second half looked more likely to score than any of our attacking performance the whole second half is indicative of the whole problem, really, isn't it? Like I said, there's just not enough. We're too cautious. And in a game like that, we really needed to, as you say, just try something different. We're against 10 men, yet you've got that freedom to just try things a bit more, be more positive, and yet we were still so cautious. And that I say, I think there were times last season where we were really creating stuff and it just wasn't happening for us. And I do think that was bad luck. But as you say, this season we're just not making anything at all. And as
Yeah.
you say, like Calvert-Lewin's not a good enough striker that he can make chances for himself. None of the players really can, and in Dye possibly, but even he's not good enough to make things work every single game on his own. And that needs to be a team effort, but it's just not there at the moment. Um,
I think last season you could hang on to that, weren't you? Because we were creating those chances and weren't finishing. And much as frustrating as it was, but this season it's just like nothing. Like not like you could legislate for the performances last year because I kind of like backed Dyche quite a lot because I thought, do you know what? He is coaching the side to make these chances, but just not finish them off. I mean, there's only so much a coach can do. Like Graham Potter a few years ago with Brighton, where they weren't scoring the goals but had the highest XG and all this lot. But it's just we're just stagnant up front. We're just so vanilla. It's just awful, isn't it?
Mm. Yeah, like I said, there were so many games last season where the result wasn't indicative of how the game had gone, and yet there's been so few of them this season. Off the top of my head, I can think of Bournemouth, and obviously that was such a freak capitulation after such a good performance, and that game we didn't deserve to lose at all. We deserved to win it, and obviously people will say, well, you know. The players shouldn't have collapsed like that. Dyche substitutes can be criticised or whatever. But the fact is, no team should be losing from the position we were in. So that's probably the only outlier this season, though. Otherwise, in all the games we've lost, I just don't, I can't argue that we've done enough to win them. Um,
No.
and that was something that he could hang on to last season a little bit and say that we were getting unlucky, but they're not this season. And I had expected it to have changed by now. I had in my head that by this point in the season, as we went into this run in by December, we'd be looking a lot healthier than we are now. And inevitably, if that's not the case, something I don't know. I think something might have to change. And we've got the takeover pretty much just around the corner, I think. And given their record at Roma, um, my gut instinct is that they're just going to take one look at this and say, yeah, we need to get a new manager in. Um, and obviously, it means we're back on the merry-go-round again. I think it's going to be our eighth different manager in 8 years. Like it's ridiculous. I think we all just wanted that stability, and it looked like last season. I think Dyche was the first manager to complete a full season since maybe a bit of an Ancelotti, I think, wasn't it? But it hasn't happened for a while, and I thought we all kind of hoped we'd have the stability going into Bramley Moore, but it's just not worked out again. So I don't know. What are you thinking? Would you be getting rid of him? Do you think he's gonna go? Where do you reckon your head is at now?
I just honestly, I just want a fresh start. Away from Dyche because you know, it's kind of like recency bias because the next 4 games we could be loving him again, but it's just a case of like I want a fresh start and I want a young, hungry manager. Similar to the profile of what Brighton have identified with that Fabian Hertzler. I'd love a manager like that who just seems like he knows what he's doing. That tactical sort of awareness and intelligence. I just feel like we just haven't really had the tactician in years, to be honest. And when you just see something different every game, we think, wow, they've identified that or they've identified this. It's not just one way of playing. We're playing this way, and that's it. That's what's going to get us the win, or that's what's going to get us the result. And just someone who wants to go out and think a draw's not good enough at home, a point's not good enough. We're playing such and such. We should be winning this game. Just a young, hungry, fresh manager would be my go-to. But who that is, identifying that is hard. It really is because it can easily go wrong. I mean, we went for a Lampard, didn't we? And a young manager you'd say was hungry, which maybe probably was too inexperienced at the time, albeit keeping us up the first season. But I don't know. I've heard that is it, Adin Terzic, who's at Dortmund, who's also assistant at West Ham at one point. He could be quite an exciting appointment. That's kind of like made me think, oh, I'd like the look of him. But yeah, it's a hard one because football changes so fast, and 5 bad games, and the Everton crowd will be on the back of that manager, and you just don't know, dear. But yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, like I say, I'd say it's going over old ground. I would have said this 100 times, but I've had a lot of sympathy for, I still think the situation we're in, I don't mind, the kind of cautious approach, and Dyche is seen as a safe pair of hands, and someone who will get you enough points in a season to just keep you up. And I still think the situation we're in at the moment, that is probably what I'd be going with, rather than taking a risk, a bit of a gamble on a young coach who will probably play a bit more, you know, a reckless style of football, I guess, but that will sometimes pay off, but sometimes won't. I don't really mind the cautious approach too much, but as you say, like, it's fine when it was working last season, but I think the form we're in at the moment is can only be described as relegation form, and come Christmas, we're almost certainly going to be in the bottom three, um, and Leicester have made their change, and they've brought in a young, exciting coach in Ruud van Nistelrooy by the looks of things. I don't think that's been officially announced at this point, but it's almost nearing completion as we record this. But they've made their gamble, and if that pays off, we're in big trouble because I'm not entirely sure who else will be in that final relegation spot. I think Ipswich and Southampton probably don't have enough about them. So I think they're pretty safe bets for going down. Ipswich are showing little signs here and there that they could maybe put up a fight, but it's not like last season where we'd had enough points by December to stay up, because of how poor Luton was. It's definitely not going to be as easy as that this season. So we're going to be in a fight. Um, and I think so much of the fan base now are alienated with what Dyche is doing, that I almost think we do need a change. But it needs to be the right manager, and I think
Yeah,
Roma's approach under the Friedkins has worried me a little bit. I think they're already on their third manager this season. I've just brought Claudio Ranieri out of retirement, 73 years old. That's about as uninspiring as you get. That's not the sort of profile we want. That'd be the equivalent of us getting Roy Hodgson out of retirement and giving him the rest of the season, going into Bramley Moore instead of brand new stadium. That's like the last thing you want. Um, so it does worry me a little bit, but I don't know. It's so difficult because it's frustrating because, like I said, I genuinely thought by this point we'd be looking okay by now. It wouldn't be pretty, it wouldn't be great, we wouldn't be battering teams, but I thought it'd be like this last season and we'd just look okay. Um, and it's just not working out that way. And with Dyche's contract running out in the summer, it all made perfect sense. Get a new manager in the summer, someone exciting, like you've just said, lead us into the new ground with a bit more money behind him. But yeah, I don't know
yeah.
because if.
Just that suits a plan rather than a firefighter manager in Dyche.
Hmm.
We need that fresh start. I do completely agree with that. I didn't mean like we should go for a fresh start now. I feel like we do need someone steady until the end of the season, whether that be Dyche or even Moyes or whoever it could be. But once that the spring sort of summer and we go into sort of like pre-season, you hope that they've got a plan with actual like figures behind it and actual proper rationale and thought behind it, that we have a proper manager who's going to lead us into the future rather than someone who's just going to be here for the now and just sort this out. But like you said, I'm worried about that Ranieri like sort of like replacement at Roma because I'm kind of thinking, there's no real thought behind that, is there?
Hmm.
I am worried about that, but yeah, we'll have to see.
And like I say, the thing for me about appointing someone like Moyes is that is just a stopgap appointment. There's no future in Moyes. So many of the fan base just be like, well, why are we getting someone in that old news? It was over 10 years ago. It's like we're trying to relive the past. I think again, a lot of the fans would really struggle to get on board with that. Um, and the fact is, if you're going to appoint a stopgap. And you might as well keep Dyche because that's literally what he is. The thing is, if we were in this situation now, needing a manager just to keep us up for the remainder of the season, that you'd appoint Dyche if he was available. Really, that's exactly the sort of profile. So you almost want kind of in the middle of what we're talking about, really, someone who has that kind of nous, like a little bit, but can also play like a more exciting brand of football, really, a bit more positive thinking than, Dyche's caution first approach. Um, so I don't know. It's someone like Graham Potter, Lee Carsley. So, like these are the sort of names that I think are more likely the type of names we're going to be going after. And I know Potter has his faults from his time at Leicester, time at Chelsea. Sorry. Lee Carsley, is still, hasn't has never had a club job before. Has done okay with the under 21s and in his interim time in England. I don't think he'd be a name we'd really be considering if he hadn't played for us, but. I don't know. It's difficult, isn't it? And I don't know.
It's horrible because we tried it all. And it just seems to all of them seem to fail, and it's like, oh, where do we go from here? It's like,
Mm,
who do we get? And
yeah,
we just need a league for a couple of years where we can have, at least semi decent football anyway, where we can get behind it, and finish much higher up the table because these relegation scraps are just taking its toll on the fan base altogether.
yeah, absolutely it is. And it's not the it's not the sort of forward-thinking club that you'd expect to be going into the sort of stadium that we're going to be going into. So yeah, like I say, I don't know. I'm still really undecided. I think Brentford was a little bit of a turning point for me on Saturday. I think if you'd asked me last week, I'd still be very much on the side of keeping him into the end of the season, but. Now I'm just really not sure. I think for me it almost kind of comes down to like the players almost, and you can almost tell when a manager's winding down to the end of his time. You can almost tell by the way the players are on the pitch, how they're playing. Sorry, excuse me, and I'm still not quite sure I see it in terms of the players aren't playing for him quite. There's little signs here
Yeah.
and there, you know, sitting in the park end, especially in the second half. I can see Pickford getting more and more frustrated, like in games where we're just not doing anything. But I don't know. There's other signs that still think that these players are fighting a little bit, and I don't know. It's
I,
such a hard one. It's such a hard one.
think you can identify when that happens, can't you? I mean, like when Ratcliffe under Benitez, that Norwich game,
Mm,
West Ham, Lampard, you can tell, you get that feeling, don't you? I
mm,
don't quite have that he's lost the dressing room. The only thing I think with Dyche, I think he's lost the fans because
absolutely.
what he speaks about in the press conference, I can't listen to the guy anymore. I can't listen to what he has to say because he's almost predictable and it's these just like constant like catchphrases he says to justify things, and it's just that mentality of, yeah, we were solid today. We got the point. We got this. We got that. And it's like, what? We all watched it. We were awful. Just tell the truth.
Mm. Yeah, it's yeah, I completely agree. I think he's alienated the fan base far more than Lampard ever did. And don't get me wrong, he hasn't done anywhere nearly as badly a job as Lampard was doing. But you'd have to go back. It's genuinely Benitez levels at this point. I think, okay, and just how much of the fan base are completely done with him and want him out. And a part of me thinks that if the Mashiri system was still in and Mashiri was still invested in the club, I think he would have been gone long by now. You're probably looking at last season during that run where we went like 3 months without a win. I think that would have been him done. I do think the only reason he is still here is the fact that there isn't really anyone to sack him yet, and or any money to sack him. Um, so yeah, I'd say it's such a horrible situation to be in yet again. Like I say, I really thought that this wouldn't be something we'd have to consider this season, and it'd be, a question for the summer. But yeah, as ever, Everton kind of ruin your plans a little bit. But I guess there's still games to be had. Like I say, I can't see him going until the Friedkins come in, and that's predicted to be mid-December, but it's almost certainly going to be later than that because these things never seem to go on as scheduled. So the fact is he has still got games to turn things around if he's able to. If we win the derby next week, then suddenly a lot of the fan base would go, oh, maybe then. If that's coming after we've beaten Wolves as well, I can't see it happening at all based on just the way Liverpool are playing alone. Absolutely no chance. But the fact is, if we get those results suddenly, because as you say, football changes so quickly and moods change so quickly. Football fans are very fickle, and it's all a lot
Mm.
of recency bias. If we suddenly, win 2 or 3 games in this December run-in, then things will start to look a little bit better again. I can't see it, but you know, but yeah, basically, looking ahead to next week, we got three important games really. United away, Wolves at home, and then the derby. Would you be changing much? What
Yeah.
what what would you be doing if you were the manager?
Well, I'd be taking the Corey out the side. I'd be putting the Belgian international of Mangala in there for a start. Because I think he's a good player, me.
Mm,
I think he's a really good player, good footballer. Can tackle. Sniffs out danger at times. Because Decore, I feel like he doesn't do anything anymore. He doesn't do anything. Like his technical ability on the ball, controlling it, it's just atrocious sometimes. But yeah, but like when you say change it, you know, as much as we say we wish Dyche could change it, there's not really many options again, is there? It's just the same type of player everywhere, and it's just it doesn't really. The thing is, right? One thing we can say about the Dyche side for Everton is that we seem to do better sometimes against the better teams because the pressure's off us in a way. We don't have to be on the ball. We can sit back in our shape and we can hit them on the counter, which we've done before. Albeit away, most of the time we don't do well at all. Um, but yeah, I mean, it could be a shock, a couple of results. And I mean, that always happens in football. So I feel like we are due one. It probably may happen. But also on the other end of the spectrum, it could be the game against United where you think we're open as anything here. They're doing whatever they want to us. And, it's a perfect fixture, really, for Ruben Amorim's first Premier League game at Old Trafford. You kind of think, oh, they'll be proper licking their lips. And the problem is it can turn very toxic now because the results have been bad anyway. And now we could be on the end of proper thumpings against his team. And I know being really negative, but is the reality of it at the moment, isn't it?
absolutely.
Um, and it could be a point with the Freakins not coming in yet. You got to think someone's got to step in and do something because it's going to be dangerous. It's going to be will be not dangerous because those fans aggressive or I'm not saying that at all. But it's just not. It's just a toxic work environment altogether, isn't it?
Mm.
And he needs a reaction out of his players because he needs them to save his job really. Because I think whoever it is working in the boardroom at the moment is going to be having to make a decision.
Mm. Yeah, I agree. I almost think it's going to be Wolves that's going to be the deciding game, really, because as bad as things are, I think you can forgive us, not getting anything at Old Trafford, even just a half decent performance. I think would just about be acceptable because, as you said, we're playing the occasion as well. United will be so up for that under the new manager, first game at Old Trafford, and they'll be wanting to make things right after not getting that result at Ipswich as well. So. Like I said, we'll be playing the occasion there, and we really will struggle. But Wolves, even though Wolves have finally found a bit of form, like in the last few matches, the type of form that we can only dream of, really. Um, they're going to be down there this season. At Goodison as well, we have to be beating Wolves. And I think anything other than that, as you say, it'll just be exactly the same. Really like negative, boos on the final whistle. And then going into the derby, in which they'll be licking their lips and thinking we could absolutely decimate these here. Final ever Goodison derby, um, and yeah, there'll be so much anger then, and it's yeah, like I say, you almost think the Wolves game's almost going to be the tipping point, I reckon, um,
Mm.
and yeah, so fingers crossed we can get something from that. But yeah, like I say, coming to the end here, I guess it's been a bit of a negative one, so we'll try and end on a bit of a lighter note. And I think you've picked out a game for us for me to do the lineup quiz, hopefully from a happier time. But yeah, you'll have to.
Yeah,
I've
I
left you
thought
in
I
judge
thought
of
you
that.
were gonna. What I think the score's going to be on the weekend. Then I was like,
Oh
oh,
yeah, I mean. do I dare even ask? Right.
Don't ask. There's
Yeah.
enough negativity going on. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, I've got a match from is against United, obviously away. 2012. It was the 22nd of April, 2012, and
Okay.
the game was 4-4. You probably remember it.
Yeah.
So is it 2 minutes you've got?
Yeah, go for it, mate. Go on.
Stopwatch. Go.
Right, so I remember this time very well. This is just after we lost the semi-final to Liverpool. It was the week after, and as you say, it was the 4-4, so it was a memorable game. So I reckon I can get this. So, you've got Howard in goal.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Distan at left back because Baines got injured in the semi-final. So Distan's at left back. Then you've got Heitinger, Jagielka, and Tony Hibbert. That's the
Yeah.
defence. Oh,
Right.
right. Obviously, Yelovich was up front, got 2 goals.
Yeah.
Fellaini played. I assume he started. Definitely scored the goal. Pienaar starting on the left.
Yeah.
Um, Darren Gibson was there, so I'd say Darren Gibson in the midfield.
Yeah.
And you got Osman.
Yeah. I think
Okay.
you got one more.
Um,
Quick fire.
I think Osman would have been on the right. So you Phil Neville in the middle.
Yeah. That was all 11.
Huh.
We done it.
Ah,
Oh,
there we go. I think that's the first time anyone's got all 11, right?
yeah. Do you want to go for the subs?
Oof. I could try. Um, so I think it would have been Mucker would have been the goalie. I think.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Um, I know James McFadden came on. I don't know why I remember that, but I
Yeah.
remember him celebrating when we scored the fourth. He came on as a sub. So James McFadden when he came back for a bit, so he was
Yeah.
definitely on the bench. Cahill came on definitely, so he was on the bench.
Yeah.
Um, Magai Gay.
Yeah, gee, that's a
Yeah,
great show.
yeah, because again he started in the semi-final. Like, I'm still scarred by that game. That's why I remember it so well. That was my first ever derby. I went down to Wembley and
Yeah.
scarred by how it went down. Um, I don't think Drentford would have been in the squad because he fell out with Moyes, so I don't think he would have been in the squad. Would Stratwalursi?
I'll give you. Yes, yes. The Shark.
How many have I named there? Is that 5? I've got
Two
2 more.
Academy graduate.
Academy go.
Yeah, two Academy graduates.
Rodwell.
No,
Oh, okay. Shane Duffy.
no.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm struggling on these last 2 Academy graduates. Anichebe.
And Sheedy, the
Okay.
Victor.
Um. Oh, I'm probably out of time now. To be fair, right?
Yeah, so it was Ross Barkley.
Oh, blimey. Yeah, I don't think of him in that season at all. But yeah, fair enough. Oh, I'm happy with that. There we go.
Oh,
That's that. I feel a bit better now. I'd take 4 all. Definitely take 4
something
all.
positive.
I think we could. I don't think we'll score 4 goals all month, to be honest. But
No,
uh, yeah. Um, so yeah, like I say, bit of a bit of a negative episode. It's got to be said, but that's the reality of the situation we're in now, isn't it? And hopefully, I mean, I doubt it, but hopefully next week we'll have a couple of positive results to discuss. But yeah, I guess we'll see. But yeah, thanks for joining me, Max. Thank you all for watching. Please leave a like if you enjoyed. Comment below giving your thoughts. Would you be getting rid of Dyche? What are you thinking for next week? Are we somehow going to turn it around? You'd have to be a lot more optimistic than us both, definitely. Subscribe to the Toffee Blues channel for more Everton content, and we will see you in the next video. Up the Toffees.